The world is full of strange creatures, and the ancient past offers up stranger ones still. Vastly different environments created these species, and it's very likely that these prehistoric creatures are so exotic, the environment of today's world couldn't even support them. These are 5 of the strangest prehistoric creatures that ever lived. Take, for example, Helicoprion, a shark-like creature with no idea of how its teeth are supposed to work. Generally, animals have 2 sets of teeth, one upper and one lower, extending from left to right. Helicoprion, however, had a single row of teeth oriented from front to back so that it was something like a razor-like tongue. There have been tons of guesses over the last century as to what Helicoprion looked like. Made of cartilage, its entire body structure decays over time, leaving no fossilized remains except for its teeth. We have several examples of tooth whorls left behind by this species, but little reference as to where it belonged on the Helicoprion. More recent studies indicate that the whorl was coiled inside of the mouth and was used to slice up food as the creature opened and closed its mouth. The creature might have been 40 feet in length, with the whorl carrying 140 teeth. But at the end of the day, all of this is merely speculation. Start with an elephant, shorten the tusks, flatten the snout, now elongate the lower jaw several feet, making it wider in the front than in the back. While you're at it, add 2 large flat teeth to that lower jaw, pointing them outward rather than upward. That's a Platybelodon, and it's a pretty darn absurd looking creature. Conventional wisdom has it that this creature lived in swampy areas where it scooped up muck with its unusually large lower jaw and let the food slide backward into its mouth. More recently, however, scientists came up with an even more bizarre image of its eating habits. It's now been suggested that Platybelodons wrap their tusks around trees and rub their teeth against branches, breaking them free to be eaten. Almost 9 feet long, the Jackalopterus is the largest known arthropod in the history of planet Earth. Arthropods are invertebrate creatures with exoskeletons, including insects, spiders, and crustaceans. Known as sea scorpions, Jackalopterus lived in the water, but not in salt water, as the name implies. It would have been found in lakes and rivers, presuming there was some reason you wanted to find this monstrosity. At least it couldn't come onto land. While it did have legs, they were too spindly to support it without the buoyancy of water. Giant claws on folding arms could strike out and catch prey, then draw it back to its mouth. These arms and claws on their own add another 3 feet to Jackalopterus' length. Jackalopterus lived 400 million years ago, when there were a few jawed vertebrates like fish to provide competition. Once evolution brought these creatures into the scene, giant invertebrates had to reduce in size to compete in the new environment. Elasmosaurus was a 46-foot-long, 2-ton water creature who shared the earth with the dinosaurs. Edward Drinker Cope first described the Elasmosaurus in 1868, depicting it as a short-necked, long-tailed creature. Cope was an expert on lizards, and he expected Elasmosaurus as having similar proportions to modern lizards. Legend has it that it was academic rival Othniel Charles March who corrected Cope, insisting the head belonged on the longer segment, not the shorter one. The result was a creature with 4 flippers, a short tail, and a ridiculously long neck. To give a sense of proportion, the tail contained 18 vertebrae, while the neck contained 72. This made the neck more than 20 feet long, longer than the total height of today's tallest giraffe. Cope and March went on to compete in what's known today as the Bone Wars. Together, they discovered over 100 prehistoric species, but they did so while sabotaging each other's dig sites, stealing each other's artifacts, hiring men to infiltrate the other's teams, publicly bad-mouthing one another, and more. Speaking of giraffes, have you ever considered what would happen if one could fly? Because Quetzalcoatlus is, in size, essentially a flying giraffe. On the ground, it stood about 18 feet tall, with a long neck and elongated beak. When flying, it had a 36-foot wingspan, and most recent estimates guess it weighed about 500 pounds. There's been debate on how a creature that big could ever have achieved self-powered flight, and it also appears Quetzalcoatlus was adept at moving on the ground using its wings as front legs. For more top lists just like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out our other lists. And thanks for watching, and thanks for learning.